What is happening, people? It is your boy Jack, and I am hoping that I sound better than usual because I've only gone ahead and gotten myself a new microphone, baby. Look at that. Look at that. The production quality's going up, baby. You can't even see it. If I just leave it up here, you don't even know there's a microphone. But anyway, guys, let's get on with today's video. Today, we're going to be speaking about the 4 biggest airline stocks in the US. Number 1. Delta Airlines, a company I've spoken about a lot on the channel before and I'm actually currently invested in. Number 2, American Airlines, which carried the most passengers of these 4 companies in 2019. Number 3, we have Southwest Airlines, who is one of the cheaper airlines in the US. And lastly, number 4, we have United Airlines, the smallest of the 4 companies today. But right before we get into the juicy details, I'm going to ask you guys, as always, please smash a like on the video. It helps the channel out massively, helps me get seen by more people. Subscribe if you're new around here, if you're just not subscribed yet, and drop me a comment with your thoughts on any of these companies at the end of the video. Now let's get straight to the juicy stuff, baby. So as I often like to do before we get into the individual stocks, I just want to speak about the airline industry as a whole, because that's obviously going to affect every single one of these companies that we speak about today. And just the first little headline I want to look at is specifically on American Airlines. American Airlines cancels 55,000 flights, offers voluntary leave to employees. So straight away from this one headline alone, we know that things are in a terrible place. They're cancelling 55,000 flights and offering voluntary leave to all employees. It's crazy, it's unprecedented, it's like nothing we would have ever seen before. So straight away we know that the airlines are in an awfully bad place. So every airline stock has been hammered since the news, since the viruses came out. Every single one of them. Right now I just have Southwest Airlines up, but just look at the dips, look at the bottoms. If we go towards the max chart even, just look at that massive drop, and then bring it back to the 6 months. We saw a massive drop, things started to get good again, and then boom, a massive drop. And I expect more massive drops to be coming all around the board in regards to airline stocks. Something else that paints a very bad picture for airline stocks: Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, the sales of Delta stock. They sold nearly 13 million shares of Delta stock, and they sold off 2.3 million shares in Southwest. He only bought Delta a few weeks ago and he's already deciding to sell. And just this one line, Buffett told Yahoo Finance less than a month ago that I won't be selling airline stocks, and then we see this. So we have to wonder just how bad can things get if Mr. Buffett himself said not even a month ago he won't be selling his airline stocks, and then boom, he sells this much worth of them. Now obviously he hasn't sold them all, he still has absolutely massive positions in these airline stocks, but the fact that he is selling can be worrying to investors like me who only hold small positions. And now we have to wonder, should we sell and try get in later, or should we just hold on? For me personally, I'm just going to be holding on. That's my thesis, that's what I do. But we really do have to wonder, how much worse is this going to get before it begins to get better? Because I'll be honest, I plan on buying a lot more in Delta, but now I'm questioning myself. I'm wondering, should I hold out and wait? I already think they're at an amazing price. Should I dollar cost average? Should I wait and see if it's going to go lower, if it's going to go lower? How do I know when it's going to go back up? These are all questions that we now have to ask ourselves. But as always with me personally, I will just be dollar cost averaging down. I don't try to time the market. The next few quarters for every airline company is going to be ugly. They are going to be bad. They're going to be unprecedented numbers. Income is going to be low. It's going to be absolutely horrible. But I think what's important to understand is that a lot of this is already factored into the shares price. People are expecting these things to happen. People buy or sell their shares based on what they think is going to happen, not on what has happened. So people expect that the quarterly earnings are going to be terrible, and that is why so many people are selling their shares. So when the quarterly earnings do eventually come out and we see these terrible shares, I actually don't expect the stock to, change much more than it would have without those earnings being released, because we all see it coming. We all already know it's coming. The same way we knew that the dividend cut was coming. It was factored into the price before it even happened. We know this to be true because do you remember what happened last week when jobless claims hit a record 3.3 million in the last report? Do you remember what actually happened in the stock market that day? The S&P 500 went up, I believe it was 3.5%. After news like this happening, it went up. The market as a whole went up. And you know why that was? It was because we expected these horrible numbers, so they were already factored into the price. So I think moving forward, that's something important to keep in mind. There's going to be loads more horrible news in regards to these airline companies, but a lot of it's already factored into the price. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your own evaluations. And most of you watching this video probably take flights every single year. Last year, I went on 5 return trips, so I got on a total of 10 planes, and I went with 3 different companies. And you know why I chose the company each and every single time without fail? Purely because they were the cheapest. I want to get from A to B as cheaply as possible. You know what I mean? I don't want to spend an extra few €100, few $100 just because this one may have an extra few inches of legroom. And I think the large majority of people buy their flights this way. And that is also something that's important to keep in mind. How competitive is a company's prices? Say, for example, I want to go to New York next March. I'm going to go onto Skyscanner, which is something that just, compares every flight that goes from where you want to go to where you want to go. And I'm just going to get the cheapest one. So the best one, €299, 9 hours. Cheapest is €258 for 17 hours, 15. You know what? For an extra 40 odd euro to shave 8 hours off my travel, I'd go with this one. And boom, it's right here. So I'm going to go with KLM. Do I want to go with them? I couldn't care less. If that said Aer Lingus, if that said Delta Airlines, if that said American Airlines, I wouldn't care who they are. You're going to go with the cheapest company. So that is something that's important to keep in mind as well. These companies need to be competitive with their prices. That is the people's biggest drivers when going on flights. Unless you're incredibly rich, you're not going to go to this one. You're not going to spend an extra €1,600 just to get there 2 hours faster. Again, unless you are one of the richest people in the world who just couldn't care less about that money. It's the same as me spending €1 in the shop. Probably less than me spending €1 in the shop. But I would bet that the large majority of you are the same as me. You just go and find which one's the cheapest and, gets there at a fairly decent rate, and you go with that flight. Now quickly, we're just looking at the largest airlines in the world by revenue, okay? Delta Airlines are the biggest. They have the most revenue, and they also have the most profit, which is awesome to see. They also have the most assets. Delta just look like the king straight off the bat. Second place, a very, very close second place, we have American Airlines. Nearly the same revenue, but a lot less profit and ever so slightly less assets. Next up is United Airlines. Again, the revenue is not far behind. The profit is quite far behind Delta, but it's actually better than American Airlines, and again, they have about 10 billion less in assets. Then lastly, we come down to number 7, we have Southwest Airlines. Their revenue is far less. Their profit is actually still very decent, and their assets are about halved, okay? So do with this information as we will. We can see that Delta also has the biggest market cap. American Airlines has the smallest market cap. Now we're looking at the list of largest airlines in North America by passengers carried. So American Airlines actually takes the most passengers, even over Delta Airlines, who are a very close second. Then we have Southwest and United, who are essentially neck and neck. Just off revenue and passengers alone, we can see that American Airlines and Delta are the two biggest runners. They're pretty much neck and neck. And then in joint second position, we have South Airlines and United Airlines, who again are pretty much neck and neck. So why would we choose any one of these companies over the other? Well, dividends are pretty much out of the picture right now. Delta already has cut its dividend. I believe United Airlines don't pay one in the first place, and it would be unprecedented. It would be absolutely amazing if American Airlines or Southwest Airlines kept their dividend up, because they haven't paid them for particularly long. So I would say dividends are completely out of the picture for at least 2 or 3 years in regards to any of these companies. So should we just look at who's the most profitable? Again, it really is not that simple. There's no one reason to invest in any of these companies. What about the market cap? We can see Delta has a much bigger market cap than American Airlines Group. Again, you can't just go off of one statistic. Here is a cool little graph. The main things I really want to look at is their operating cash flow and their free cash flow. So American Airlines is by far the worst by a long mile, with a negative free cash flow. And this is between 2015 and 2019. They have had negative free cash flow. To me, that's a terrible sign right off the bat. Obviously, again, you can't take any one statistic, but this is definitely a point against American Airlines. They also brought in 24.9 billion in operating cash flow. Delta was the biggest with 35.6 billion in operating cash flow, and they were also the biggest in free cash flow with 15.3 billion. United Airlines with a 28.1 billion OCF and a 6.8 billion FCF, and then last we've Southwest Airlines with a 20.3 billion OCF and an 11.2 billion FCF. So they actually spent the least, which could be seen as a good thing. But to me, Delta is the clear winner here. They are making the most and they have the most free cash flow. Personally, right, I think all of the big runners are going to perform very similarly. I think if we see American Airlines go down, we'll see the other 3 go down. I think if we see Delta go up, we'll see the other 3 go up. It's just about who do we believe in the most in the long term. And then from my point of view, who do I believe will be able to recover the quickest? Who do I believe will be able to start paying their dividend again the quickest? Everything along those lines. We have to think about who's going to recover the fastest and the best when we come out of that. And to me, that's Delta Airlines every single time. So now we're going to speak a little bit about dividends, because as investors, we're going to hope that these companies do pay dividends in the future. And that is going to be something that is important to us, like when we decide which one we're going to invest in. That could be the difference. So we see Delta paid a dividend before, they had to cut it for a long time, and when they started paying it again, they were very aggressive with how it grew. Their last 5 years, 38% growth. That's a crazy big number. That's another point, in my opinion, to Delta. When they can start paying their dividend again, I'm going to expect them to just hammer that up every single year and increase that dividend payout. Next up, we're looking at Southwest Airlines. Now, these guys, okay, they've had an uninterrupted dividend streak for 29 plus years, but they've only had a dividend growth streak for 8 years. They've had a very, very low dividend yield for the large majority of the time. They may as well have not even been paying a dividend, but again, they've gotten very aggressive with their dividend as time has gone on. Now, again, I see this just disappearing now. I know that's a very nice uninterrupted dividend streak, but it'll be very, very hard for this company to keep paying it. Who knows, maybe they'll just drop it down to 0.1% so that they can keep this streak alive, but I don't see this company being able to afford to pay a dividend. Now, American Airlines, very new to paying dividends. We can see 2013, boom, we started shooting up in 2014, and it's been steady ever since. Again, this dividend is just gone. It's gone. There's no question about it. It won't be there, and I don't think they're going to be in any rush to bring it back either, to be completely honest with you. And then lastly, we have United Airlines, who again, have no dividend. They paid it for a little while and then they said, you know what, I don't like paying these dividends. So obviously, United Airlines, we cannot bank on them bringing a dividend at any stage in the near future. So from a company paying dividends point of view, I don't believe American Airlines or United are even in the picture. Delta, I believe that they will recover the quickest personally, and once they do, and once they have free cash flow, they are going to want to get that dividend straight back up again. And then Southwest Airlines, it's a tough call, but I do believe they too clearly enjoy paying dividends, clearly want to reward their investors, so I think that they'll do everything they can to get their dividend up and running as soon as possible as well. Now we'll just have a look at all of their charts, because it's always nice to have a look at their charts. So we're starting off with Delta again. We're on the 3-month chart, and we can see a 3-month change of negative 61.28%. It has been horrible. Southwest Airlines doing a bit better on the 3-month chart with a negative 43.83%. American Airlines doing the worst so far with a 3-month change of 66%. And United Airlines doing the worst of everybody with a 3-month change of negative 73.96%. So all of them have been hit incredibly hard. Obviously Southwest have been hit the least by an absolute mile, but they've all been hit terribly. Now quickly, we'll have a look at all the 5-year charts just to see how they're looking. So we're back on Delta, and we can see very cyclical, up, down, up, down, up, down, but overall trend line is up, and then this massive dip, and they're at a 5-year change of negative 46%. Southwest Airlines up next. Again, very cyclical, up, down, massively. There's no trend line to be made here. You could try and make one up here, but it makes no sense to me. But their 5-year change is only negative 28.77%. American Airlines, horrible for the last 5 years. Look at this, up, and then it's just been down. This has nothing even to do with the situation that's going on. It's just been down, and they're finishing at negative 80%. And lastly, United Airlines, very cyclical yet again, up, down, massive up, big down, up. Again, there is some sort of trend line to be made. They have generally seen growth, but then just this massive dip, leaving them at negative 63%. So we can see that they've all been absolutely hammered. They're all in horrible positions. With that being said, Southwest have significantly outperformed the rest, which is something to keep in mind. So where does this leave all us investors? Should we buy or should we not buy? As always, I think if you believe in the company's long-term outlook, and if you do more research into the specific companies and you find one that you really like, now's a fantastic time to buy. There's no guarantees. Any of these companies could potentially go bankrupt, but things are looking up. They'll be getting help from the US government. You know what I mean? They're more than likely going to be able to survive. A lot of these companies do have cash on hand to help them get through tough times. They're not completely shut down. They are still bringing in some operating income, just not as much as usual. So if you do believe in these companies in the long term, then most definitely yes, I believe that now could be an absolutely fantastic time to buy, but always make sure to do a lot more research than you just see in one video like this. This was just a really broad overview of airlines as a whole. I personally am only invested in Delta and don't plan on purchasing any other airline stocks. I may increase my position in Delta, but I'm not too sure yet. I'm not too sure, especially after Buffett deciding to sell his stocks. I have a feeling markets could well go lower, and we all know that that is true. But anyway guys, please drop me your opinions on any of the stocks that we covered today, or any other airline stocks for that matter. I'm always really interested to hear what you guys have to say and what you guys think, or what positions you have or are currently looking to open. And if you haven't yet, please drop the video a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and until the next one guys, peace.